Hello. Today I had something which is technically bad happen. Not like super bad or anything like that, but you normally would classify it as bad. But yet, I had a really nice time. It was very memorable, and I found it very interesting, and I kind of felt like compared to how I would have like maybe handled it like 5 or 10 years ago, it's like a lot better now. I just felt like really like one of those moments where you think, I don't know if it's poignant or I don't know how to describe it, but just yeah, uh, yeah. What happened was today my friend Vu, who's getting married on the weekend, asked me to in the afternoon to drive to his house with my car to help him to pick up the wedding car, the rented wedding car. So I today. I was driving around. Drove all the way to like 1,000 steps up in the Dandenongs. Came back. It was fine. Actually, when I came back, I could for the last week or so I could smell like a kind of a smoky smell. Like when I stopped my car, and it was concerning me a little bit. And so when I got home today, the car was hot and smoky, and could smell it smoky. So I did my usual where I filled up the water in the car and also checked the oil, and the oil was down to like 0, so I thought maybe that was it. So I filled up the oil until it was full again, and I thought that was okay. Did a few things and then drove to Vu's house. That was fine. Yeah, picked up Vu and his cousin, and then we were gonna drive to let's just say up Punt Road somewhere. And just as we were going down the road outside his house, my car, it just suddenly just died. Like it just like the steering, it just died, and steering was hard, and I was like, oh my god, I think my car's dying. And then so we had to pull over to the side of the road. Yeah, my Vu and his cousin helped pushed it to the side of the road, and like, oh god. And it's funny, I was thinking like, some things, it just seems they happen like for a reason, or like they're meant to happen or something like that, because it just seemed so kind of like perfect in a way, because that was like the best, like you could say it's bad that it actually happened, but it was kind of like the best time for it to happen, like rather than being like halfway from his house to Punt Road where the rental car was. It was just very close to his house, that it happened. Really weird. So we started up the engine again. It was okay. Turned the car around and driving down, and then just as we were turning into Vu's driveway, the car died just as we were turning, and there was cars coming from both ways as well. So a car was coming, and I had to like go, stop, and then they had to wait while we turned the car. Vu and his cousin were pushing the car and got it inside, and eventually we got onto the side of the road, parked on the side of the road. And then so what happened then was I told Vu, Vu called Monin to see if she could drive him, and then I said I better stay here and call the RACV and see what happens. So Vu and all that went with Monin to get the car, and I was sitting on the side of the road. I think it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, just sitting there and thinking. And the funny thing was, I wasn't that really upset or anything like that. Which this is the thing that made me want to do this video. Kind of like it was a nice sunny day, like really nice sunny, not too hot, not too cold. I was just sitting on the curb next to my car. I called the RACV and was waiting for them to come, and there was nothing for me to do other than just sit and wait. Like I didn't want to use my phone to Facebook or anything like that in case I didn't want the batteries to run out. So just kind of sitting there, and I was just having like one of those really nice, I think lately, maybe hopefully I just things I try not to let things bother me much, as much, maybe like kind of like just go with the flow and like not to think too hard about things. And yeah, this afternoon it just felt really like nice. Like this thing had happened to my car, which I love my car. It's an old car and has so much things wrong with it now, all my fault, things that I've done. But you know, I just kind of like was just relaxed and kind of like in the moment in a way. I was just staring all around at the trees, and you know there was this big, you know, the what are they called? Where the power lines converge. There's this big, those middle tower things, you know, with grills. I was just looking at that, you know, and watching these birds. I don't know what they are, crows or something, flying around and landing on it, and I was like in such a kind of happy mood. And the thing that made it even better, which is probably what spurred me to do this video, is like I was sitting on the curb next to my car, and this car drove past, and he was going into his house, like driving into his house. He stopped and pulled, and he wound down his window and said, "Hey mate, are you alright? Do you need any help?" You know? And I was like, "Oh no, it's okay, the tow truck's coming." And then he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And he drove into his house, and when he did that, I was like, wow, you know, it's really nice that people do this kind of thing, you know, like they've got their own thing to do, their own daily thing to do, and yet they'll stop and check if someone else is okay. It's the coolest thing. And then about 10 minutes later, I was sitting there, and this girl who was walking past, she said, "Hey, do you need help with anything?" Actually, the thing about this was like, sorry, this was after the RACV mechanic had come already. So he came and he told me that it was overheating, and I told him what I had done with the car, and then he said, "Oh no, you don't put the water in there, cause it's like this bottle in the front part where you put the coolant." But he goes, "No, you put it in the radiator part, like at the front." I never knew that. I didn't really realise that was supposed to be where you put the water. So all these years I've never really put the water in there. I've always filled up the water in the coolant thing. And he said that if there's a leak in that, it won't get to the engine or something like that. So basically, I've been putting it in not the optimal spot for the water, obviously, because now my car was overheating a lot. And he said he's got to wait for it to cool down for a few hours. So maybe it's best if call a tow truck, take it to the mechanic. So he did that for me. He called the tow truck, so I had to wait for the tow truck, and he said just lift the bonnet up and leave it up so that it's easier for him to see me. So yes, I was sitting on the side of the road, and my car had my bonnet up, and I was just sitting there, you know, staring at the space or something like that. And that was when people would stop and ask, you know, do you need a hand with anything? And yeah, this girl came past and said, "Oh, do you need like jumper cables or anything like that?" Like you know, and I was like, "Oh no, it's okay. The tow truck's coming to help me out." And she's like, "Oh, cool." But just when people do that, like it made me feel good after they left. Like and I was thinking, yeah, there's still really good people in this world. And you know how like it's always this, you know, people always say, "Oh, you know, people are so rude these days" and stuff like that. But then, you know, there's people like this out there. Just on the weekend, like I was running up 1,000 steps in my Warachi sandals, and what happened? I think it was muddy or something like that, but the knot came out, and so I was sitting on the side and like retying it up, and just as I was sitting on the side of this, I was running up the slope and I was sitting on the side, this girl stopped and said, "Are you okay? You know, do you need any help or anything?" Or something like that. And I said, "No, it's okay, I'm alright." And then, you know, but just stuff like that, I didn't really notice. I didn't know people, because I don't think I've been in a situation where people, like, you know, was in trouble or anything like that. But just to know that people stop out of what they're doing to ask, you know, if you need a hand, it's like, it gives you the nicest feeling. And I don't know if I do that much. Like, if I, you know, see something like that, I don't know, I'm not sure if I would do that, but I'd really like to become a person who does that kind of thing. Hopefully, now that I've experienced it, I'll be more prone to, you know, if someone looks like they're in trouble, maybe I'll ask them. I hope so. Yeah, anyways, yeah, and yeah, I was just having a really nice afternoon. Strangely, this thing happened, like, kind of bad, because it was like, you know, I was supposed to be the person drive Vu to the to get the wedding car, and it just didn't work out that way. But I didn't feel too bad, because it wasn't really anything that I consciously had done, you know, wrong. It was like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I really, these days I beat myself up very much if I've done something, and no, something happens, but it wasn't consciously me, you know, doing that in a way, like it was out of my control in a way. Yeah, it's just funny how you can just, something bad happen, but yet I had a really nice afternoon because I was thinking, you know, I had a day off. I got to run 1,000 steps. You know, the car seems, I mean, like, I don't know what's wrong with my car at, you know, at the time, but, you know, there's no real damage to anyone else. Everything seemed, the timing of everything seemed to work out okay, you know. And yeah, basically I was just thinking, I think it's just the way you look at things. Like, something bad can happen, but, you know, somehow if you just look at, you know, I think I was sitting there thinking, yeah, just in the moment, kind of just looking for, like, you know, what's around that's really, like, beautiful, or, you know, that I can just focus on, you know. And the cool thing was, one really thing that I noticed is that when I was waiting for the tow truck, I wasn't really waiting for it. I wasn't like looking at cars thinking, oh, is that car a tow truck? You know, every car that comes past. I know, like, maybe 10 or 5 or 10 years ago, I probably would have been like that, waiting and just looking, waiting, where's this, you know, when does it kind of come, kind of thing, like, kind of actually actively waiting. But for this, I was actually not even waiting. I wasn't even thinking about it. I had my phone out. I logged into Tumblr and I was about to just start typing what I was thinking at the time. And just as I was starting to type it, that's when the tow truck arrived. And yeah, it was really cool. And yeah, in the tow truck guy was really cool. He was like this really blokey bloke, and we got along really well. Like, I was just chatting to him in the car and stuff, and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I really got along well with him. So I had a really awesome afternoon. At the mechanic, they checked out my car and they said, oh, you know, after pouring in heaps of water, because it had hardly any water in it probably, they poured heaps into it, so that was a big problem. And he said, oh, it doesn't seem like it's too bad yet, but then he said something about he's going to check the thermostat or something, so I've left the car at the mechanic till they call me about it. But it's just yeah, I just really wanted to do this, felt like doing this video, because it just I felt really happy that something like this could happen and it didn't really ruin my day. Like, I went through the rest of the day pretty happy, pretty relaxed. Yeah, like, and it was, yeah, I'm just really happy. And yeah, this kind of, you could classify it as a bad thing, and this bad thing happened and hasn't really ruined my day at all. And actually found I enjoyed it in a way, because it was like something different that happened. Like, when the tow truck came and I was watching him pull my car up onto the tow truck and how he attached it and everything, I think that was really interesting. I got to sit in this tow truck, and I found out all of these cool things, like it's a brand new tow truck, and he's only had it for like 4 days, and he loves it, and he can drive it so much further on the same amount of petrol, and just all these little things. And I wouldn't have, you know, if this bad thing hadn't happened, I wouldn't have experienced that. It would have just been a routine day in a way. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, except that hopefully I just continue to do this kind of thing. Like, if something bad happens, like, it doesn't affect me too much. Like, I would hope that is the case. And I think that's all I want to say.